For 1,000 years, the galaxy knew peace. There were no wars, no fighting, no weapons. The Great Galactic Council ruled over hundreds of peaceful worlds. Aliens of many shapes and colors worked together. They traded goods, shared knowledge, and lived without fear. The younger races believed war was just an old story, told to scare children. But the old ones, the elders of the council, remembered. They knew peace could never last forever. The council met inside the Crystal Hall, a shining building floating above the skies of Neria Prime. It was the center of all galactic power. Inside, the leaders of many species sat around a glowing table. Their faces were calm. Today's topic was simple: a trade route between two moons. Nothing seemed wrong. Then, the stars disappeared. It started with a small alert on the council's screen. A sector of space near the edge of the galaxy had gone dark. At first, they thought it was a sensor failure. But more sectors vanished. 1, then 2, then 5, then entire systems. A voice broke the silence. It was High Speaker Value, a tall creature with golden skin and 6 glowing eyes. He rarely spoke with fear, but now his voice shook. This is not a malfunction. A hologram lit up the center of the room. It showed a massive fleet, hundreds of black ships, moving through space like a storm. They were shaped like blades, cutting the stars as they passed. No signals came from them. No attempts to talk, only silence, and behind them, only destruction. Planets turned to dust. Moons cracked open. Colonies vanished. The council screamed in confusion. Some called for diplomacy. Others begged for help, but there was no time. The enemy, whoever they were, was fast, deadly, and coming closer. In the chaos, one voice whispered a name most had forgotten: humans. The room fell silent again. A small, old being floated forward. Her name was Eldermar, one of the last who remembered the time of fire, 1,000 years ago. "We must call the humans," she said. A counselor laughed. "Humans? They left the galaxy 800 years ago. No one has seen them since." "They left," she replied, "because they were tired of peace. War was in their blood. We asked them to stop, so they vanished." She pointed at the screen. "But now, we need monsters." The council hesitated. Many were afraid. They had only heard stories. Stories of a race that laughed during battles. A race that made weapons out of stars. A race that never surrendered. But they had no choice. The council activated an ancient signal, one that had not been touched in centuries. It was hidden deep under the crystal hall. It glowed red and pulsed like a heartbeat. Far away, at the edge of known space, something answered. A small outpost, long dead and forgotten, came to life. Lights flickered. Machines started humming. A metal gate, covered in dust, opened with a loud hiss. From the darkness, a single human ship appeared. It was old, covered in scars. Its surface was dark like ash, with strange symbols painted in blood-red lines. It moved slowly, like a predator waking up. The ship broadcast a short message. Message received. Target confirmed. Deploying fleet. Then, silence. More ships appeared, 10, then 20, then hundreds, all human. They came not in straight lines like the alien fleets, but in twisted formations, sharp and wild. Each ship had its own name, painted in bold letters. Greydigger, Hopebreaker, Last Laugh, Children of War. Inside those ships were men and women who had lived their entire lives in battle. They were born in war zones, trained in gravity storms, forged in the fire of forgotten stars. And now, they were coming home. Back at the Crystal Hall, fear turned into something else. Hope and fear again. One young counselor turned to Elder Meyer. "Will they save us?" She looked up at the human fleet entering the star system. "No," she said quietly. "They will survive. Whether we do depends on how useful we are to them." The stars were no longer silent. Human ships moved like shadows across the galaxy. No one knew how many there were. Some said hundreds. Others said thousands. All anyone knew was humanity had returned. And they were not the same. The Galactic Council watched in silence as the first human fleet passed through Sector 9. Alien scanners tried to read the ships, but the data came back broken. Their engines were strange. Their weapons were unknown. Their technology was older than Council ships, but somehow stronger, meaner. It was like the ships were angry. High Speaker Valiant opened communication with the human flagship. His voice was careful. "This is the Galactic Council. We welcome your presence. We." Before he could finish, the human ship responded. The voice that answered was calm, deep, and cold. "We are not here to be welcomed. We are here for war." The message ended. No explanation. No more words. One ship broke away from the fleet. It entered orbit around a destroyed colony. The Council had sent rescue ships earlier, but they found only ruins. Everything was gone. Burned. But now, as the human ship arrived, it released drones, small machines shaped like knives. They searched the wreckage. Within minutes, the humans knew everything the Council didn't. Who attacked, how they attacked, what weapons they'd used. Then, the humans laughed. They sent one short message to the Council. Amateurs. The Council didn't understand. The invaders, the Varnak, were powerful. No one could stop them. They destroyed planets in hours. But the humans didn't seem afraid. In fact, they seemed happy. Reports came in from nearby systems. Human troops were landing. No fancy uniforms, no shining armor. Just thick, scarred gear and tired eyes. Some soldiers were missing limbs. Some had glowing mechanical arms. All of them looked ready. At one battle site, a Council drone recorded a strange scene. A group of human soldiers stood around a destroyed Varnak tank. One soldier kicked it and grinned. "This the best they've got," he said. Another laughed. "I've seen worse on training days." They spoke like war was normal. Like this was fun. The Council didn't know what to do. Should they be thankful or terrified? Eldermere, the oldest member, spoke again. They left because peace made them weak, so they found places with war. They trained in nightmare worlds, and now they are stronger than all of us. She looked at the screen showing hundreds of humans marching across a battlefield, fire behind them. They don't just fight war, she said. They became it. Back in deep space, the human flagship, named Iron Memory, sent a new message. This time, it wasn't cold. It was almost friendly. "Send us all data on Varnak movement. We'll handle it." The Council was confused. Alone? The human voice replied, "Yes, stay out of the way. You are not ready for this." And so the Council watched as the forgotten race returned to the battlefield. They didn't ask for help. They didn't ask for thanks. They'd only asked for one thing: point us to the enemy. The Varnak were not used to resistance. They had destroyed 20 worlds without a single real fight. They moved fast, like a wave of darkness. They crushed cities, burned forests, and silenced entire planets. But then, they reached Sector 27. There they met the humans. The battle started as it always did. The Varnak landed heavy shock troops, tall monsters with armor like living steel. Their ships opened fire. Their ground machines rolled over alien defenses. But this time, something was different. Humans didn't run. They didn't hide. They charged. On the ground, the Varnak saw them coming, small in size, no advanced armor, some even carrying old rifles. But there was one thing that made the Varnak hesitate. The humans were laughing. Even while bullets flew and fire lit the sky, the humans smiled like this was a game. One human, covered in mud and blood, yelled, "Finally, a real fight." Another replied, "Hope they last longer than the last ones." The Varnak commander sent more troops. He didn't understand. Why were the humans not afraid? Why did they run towards explosions? Soon, human fighters hit the Varnak from above. Fast, wild ships with strange names. Dead Man's Gift, Junk Angel, the Punished Smile. They flew in broken, wild patterns. No logic, no order. But they had every target. It was like the chaos was part of their plan. One Varnak soldier screamed into his comms, "They don't follow rules." His officer replied, "Then make them." But that was the problem. You can't control fire with rules. Meanwhile, on a Council observation ship, several alien diplomats watched the battle in shock. One turned to the human commander beside them, a woman with gray eyes and a metal arm. "Why do they laugh?" the alien asked. "This is war. It's death." The human smiled quietly. "Because we've lived with war for centuries," she said. "To us, peace was the stranger. War is home." The alien looked horrified. "But this is madness." The human looked at the battlefield, where soldiers danced through gunfire like it was music. "No," she replied, "this is humanity." Back on the ground, the Varnak tried a desperate move. They released gas that burned lungs. They used sound weapons that made weaker species fall to their knees. The humans adapted in minutes. Some tore off helmets and wrapped their faces with cloth. Others used earplugs made from broken gear. And they kept laughing. One human sergeant roared, "They're trying to scare us." Another shouted back, "Too late. We were born scared." Then came the final strike. The Varnak sent in their elite, the Black Claws, 10 feet tall, with armor that crushed stone. The humans didn't stop. They charged them. Hand to hand, knife to claw, flesh to metal. A human soldier with one arm leaped on the back of a black claw and stabbed it in the eye with a broken piece of ship metal. It screamed. He laughed. Then silence. The humans won. Later, as the sun rose over the battlefield, bodies lay everywhere, both Varnak and human. But the humans were still moving, still standing, still smiling. A Varnak prisoner, wounded and shaking, asked a captured human, "What are you?" The human leaned close and whispered, "We are the reason peace was possible for 1,000 years. But now that peace is broken, we are the storm." The Varnak had ruled other galaxies. They crushed empires. They broke kings. Their enemies begged for mercy before the first shot was fired. They believed no species could stand against them. Until now. Until humans. At first, the Varnak didn't take the humans seriously. Their ships looked old. Their soldiers wore mixed armor. Their formations were chaotic. But after 3 battles, the Varnak stopped laughing. Their best generals were dead. Their weapons were stolen and used against them. And worst of all, the humans kept winning and kept smiling. High Lord Varzek, leader of the Varnak Empire, sat in his war throne, watching battle reports. Every time he saw humans, they were doing something insane. One video showed a human soldier run straight into enemy fire, throw a grenade, and laugh as it exploded around him. Another showed a pilot flying a burning ship directly into a Varnak dreadnought, shouting, "See you in hell." The dreadnought exploded. The pilot survived. Varzek clenched his claws. "What are these creatures?" One of his science lords answered, "We studied their history. They were peaceful for a time, but before that, they knew only war." Varzek growled, "So they're warriors." The scientist shook his head. "No, warriors fight with honor. These fight with madness, with rage, with joy." Varzek stared at the screen again. A human squad had written something on their armor in red paint. "We smile because we've already died once." On a ruined moon, a Varnak unit tried to capture a human outpost. They expected a simple battle. Instead, they were ambushed. The humans had booby-trapped everything. Even the food supplies exploded. One soldier pulled a Varnak into a pit trap, laughing the whole way down. The last surviving Varnak screamed into his radio, "They don't fear pain. They don't fear death." Then static. Meanwhile, in the council's war room, alien leaders watched footage of human victories. A young diplomat asked, "Why do the Varnak fear them so much?" An old commander, once a friend of humans, spoke softly. "Because the Varnak never met anyone who fought without fear. But humans learned to fight because they had no other choice." The diplomat didn't understand. The commander continued. Their world was not easy. They had war, famine, disease. But they didn't break. They adapted. They survived. And in that fire, they were forged. Back in deep space, a human ship intercepted a Varnak transmission. It was a secret message meant for enemy commanders. The human AI decoded it in seconds. Message content: do not engage humans directly. Avoid ground battles. Target from distance. Their courage spreads like a virus. The human captain laughed. "They're scared of us now." He opened a comm to his fleet. "You hear that? We're a virus. Let's infect their whole empire." The fleet cheered. And so the humans pushed forward, deeper into enemy space. In one Varnak command center, a soldier refused to fight. His commander shouted, "Coward, we are the Varnak." The soldier replied, "We were gods, until the humans came. Now we bleed. Now we burn. They fear nothing." How do you fight something like that? His commander had no answer. Far away, inside a dark ship named the Laughing Dead, a human general gave a speech to his troops. "You all know why we're here. Not to save the galaxy, not to be heroes. We're here because someone thought they could bring war back to our doorstep." He looked at them, men and women covered in scars, metal, and memories. They forgot who taught the stars what war really means. Let's remind them. The soldiers roared. The ship jumped to light speed. The Varnak thought they were the enemy that feared nothing. Now, they had found the true masters of fear. And those masters were human. The Galactic Council was changing. For 1,000 years, they believed in peace, in talks, in treaties, in balance. But now, the stars were burning. The Varnak were destroying entire systems. Billions were dead. The Council had begged. They had offered surrender. The Varnak did not care. And the humans, they did not beg. They fought back. harder than anyone expected. The Council had once called humans dangerous, unstable, wild. Now they called them something else. Hope. On the Council world of Renaxus, leaders gathered in panic. Screens showed human fleets breaking through Varnic lines. But it wasn't just the victories that shocked them. It was how the humans won. They used traps, tricks. Old tech turned into deadly weapons. One team of human engineers turned a mining laser into a planet defense cannon. Another hacked a broken Varnic ship and flew it back like a bomb. And everywhere, there was the same message, burned into walls and painted on gear. Peaceful no more. The Council's high speaker Valuan stood in silence, watching humans carry wounded aliens to safety after a battle. One human soldier gave his own oxygen to a dying core beast child, despite bleeding from his side. Valuan asked, "Why help them? They're not your people." The human medic shrugged. "We don't pick sides based on blood. We pick them based on who's still breathing." Valuan had no answer. Meanwhile, the Varnic retreated. For the first time in their empire's history, they gave ground. But they didn't fall back to surrender. They were building something. A weapon. Deep in the dark systems of the old war zones, the Varnac High Lord Varzek activated the core flame, a star-powered cannon able to destroy entire fleets. "This will end them," he growled. "Even humans can't laugh in the face of a dying sun." Back on a human ship named Burning Calm, Captain Rena Gray received the warning. A Council spy had passed it to them. The core flame would be ready in 3 days. Gray looked at her crew. "All right," she said. "They want to play gods? Let's remind them who killed the last ones." The humans didn't wait. They didn't debate. They moved. In just 14 hours, 3 human fleets jumped into the core flame system. They didn't care about odds. Didn't count enemy ships. They attacked from every angle. The Varnac were waiting, confident. Until human fighters crashed into their defense towers, piloted by soldiers who knew they wouldn't come back and didn't care. Until human engineers hacked into the cannon's cooling system using a signal built for music, an old Earth war song. Until the cannon overheated and exploded. The blast tore through the Varnic base. The sky turned white. And above it all, a single human broadcast went out. "You wanted peace broken. Now, choke on the fire." After the battle, Council ships arrived to help. But there was nothing left to do. The humans were already gone, chasing the next Varnic fleet before it could run. Eldramir, watching the wreckage from her ship, whispered, "They are not the sane race we knew. The humans we once feared are gone." Someone beside her asked, "Then what are they now?" She answered with a heavy voice, "They are peace, broken and reforged in war. They're what comes after mercy ends." The stars were no longer quiet. The Varnic Empire was burning. One by one, their systems fell. Planets once used to hold slaves were now silent. Ships once feared across the galaxy drifted in pieces. The humans had torn through them like a storm with no end. But they weren't just fighting battles. They were breaking chains. On the planet Gorod 9, the Varnic had ruled for 200 years. Millions of aliens were forced to dig, mine, and build weapons. They lived under whips behind fences. Then the sky lit up. The humans had arrived. No warning, no words, just fire. Drop pods slammed into the ground like meteors. Out came humans in old, scratched armor. Some had one eye. Some had no real arms left, but every single one moved with purpose. One Varnic guard shouted, "They're outnumbered." A human soldier smiled and whispered, "Good, more to shoot at." The humans didn't just attack, they freed. Prison gates were blasted open. Slaves were handed weapons. One young alien, barely old enough to walk, was carried out by a soldier with the words, "No more chains" on his armor. The Varnac tried to retreat. They didn't make it. Not one. The Council received the footage. They expected to see war crimes. They feared the humans had gone too far. Instead, they saw something else. They saw mercy. Wounded Varnac were captured, not killed. Civilians were given food. Slaves were protected. The humans didn't destroy everything. Only the guilty. Eldermeyer spoke before the Council. "This is not the same species we once judged. They were peaceful, then broken. Now they fight, not for power, but to make sure no one else is broken again." The Council voted that day. For the first time in 1,000 years, they declared war. But not on humanity. With humanity. Across the stars, more chains broke. On Zarka 5, humans and Council soldiers fought side by side for the first time. An alien commander said, "Your ways are strange. You rush into fire." The human captain replied, "Because some things are worth burning for." They charged together. They'd won. Meanwhile, the Varnak were retreating deeper into the dead zones, places even the Council feared to go. There, they activated the last weapon, the Void Beacon. It would rip a hole in space, swallowing systems into nothing. A final scream of rage. Varzek, the last High Lord, stood before it. "If we cannot rule the stars, we will end them." But the humans had already found him. A squad of 12 soldiers broke into the control tower. They fought through waves of Varnak troops with knives and grit. The last one standing reached the beacon, covered in blood. She placed a charge on the core. "Message to all fleets," she said with her last breath. "No more fear, no more fire, no more them." She smiled. The charge blew. The beacon died. The Varnak with it. In orbit, 1,000 ships watched the explosion. It looked like a star being born, then swallowed again. Captain Gray, aboard the burning column, looked out in silence. "They're done," someone said. Gray nodded. "No, we're done with them." Peace had returned. But it would never be the same. Now the galaxy knew something they had forgotten. Peace is not given. Peace is kept by those who are willing to fight for it. And now, thanks to humanity, the stars had guardians again. Not perfect, not gentle, but unbreakable. The war was over. The Varnak Empire was gone, burned, broken, buried in the dark corners of space. Their ships were dust. Their cities were ash. Across the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, the stars were quiet. But not silent. Now, they whispered a new name. Humanity. On the Council homeworld, the Great Hall stood full. Species from 100 worlds sat together. The room once built for peace had been empty for years. Now, it was alive again. At the center, a human stood. Her name was Commander Rena Gray. She had led fleets, destroyed Varnak weapons, and lost too many friends. Her armor was cracked. Her voice was steady. She looked around the hall. "You once feared us," she said, "called us violent, unstable, too wild for your quiet galaxy." She paused. "You were right." Gasps filled the room. She continued, "We were wild. We were angry. But when the fire came, who stood? Who held the line when peace failed? No one spoke. You feared us until you needed us." Then she smiled. "And we didn't let you down." A cheer rose. Not just from humans. From everyone. On Earth, the skies were full of strange ships, alien visitors, allies, friends. A young girl looked up and asked her grandfather, "Is it over?" He nodded slowly. "The war is. But peace." He looked toward the stars. "Peace must be guarded." She frowned. "By who?" He smiled and tapped her chest. "By anyone brave enough to wear armor." Not all humans returned from the war. Some stayed on free worlds, helping rebuild. Some took in orphaned alien children. Others joined the Council's new Peace Guard, a force made of many species, trained by humans. Because peace was not soft anymore. Peace now wore boots, carried rifles, and smiled like it had seen hell, and walked out laughing. In a distant system, a broken Varnak ship drifted near a quiet moon. Inside, 2 survivors argued. "They will come," one hissed. "They will punish us." The other looked through the window at the stars. "No," he said, "they don't come to punish. They'll come to protect." That's worse. Years passed. Children learned of the war in simple stories, not of numbers and fleets, but of courage, of sacrifice, of the day humanity reminded the galaxy of something forgotten. That peace isn't the absence of war. It's the will to fight for what matters. And when that time comes again, when Eagle rises, when darkness grows, the galaxy will remember one thing. They will remember who laughed first. They will remember humanity. The end.